and there's lots of people who have been saying, what's NICE doing? But NICE have been incredibly active. I know what's been going on behind the scenes. If you saw the email chatter, you know that there's been lots of people working very hard. And one particular hard-working person is Alistair Noble, and I'm really pleased that he's come to give us at Nairn West the first presentation of the NICE plan. So I'm going to hand over to Alistair straight away. I'm going to turn the lights out. He's got a microphone because we know he has a very soft voice, so you can hear all the good stuff he's going to tell you. There we are.
Well, firstly, welcome to everybody. Is that okay for sound for everybody?
Yeah.
If I mutter, Rupert will shout at me and tell me to take singing lessons, and I'll do my best to keep it sensible. What I'm planning to do is really run through this presentation, and I think probably the best way is for you to see it in its entirety, because it's a big picture. For many people in this room, there'll be nothing new in anything I'm going to say tonight. It's a kind of combination of everything that's been talked about in Nairn for the last probably 30, 40 years since I came here first. The difference now is that this is very much in line with current government thinking. It's about community empowerment and community capacity, and it's about involving the local people in making decisions that are in their best interests and what I would regard as the interest of the common good. So that's the kind of starting principle that we're working on. So we'll run with it as it goes, I hope. That's a logo and just some nice views in there, and I hope as part of this presentation you get this real sort of feeling that Nairn is a very attractive place, and we think it's a place that's really worth putting a lot of effort into. These are the acknowledgements in this presentation, and to start off with, although he's not mentioned in this, I'll run through the people who are mentioned and tell you. Dave Shilby produced a lot of the photographs, as did Ian. Rupert's contributed a lot to it, as has Matthew, and Magnus Swanson's given us a lot of good legal advice, which is incredibly helpful, and the other directors and others. And this is a professional presentation that's been produced by Alan Jones of Alan Jones Associates, so I hope you'll think it's worth the effort to make it look this good and this tiny. So why do we need a vision? One of the good things about getting somebody outside to do this presentation is says things that we might have thought but probably wouldn't have said. Everything I'm doing around the health and social agenda is around the fair share principle, and localities getting their fair share of investment. And I think most people have heard me say this for many years, it's hard to believe that Nairn gets its fair share. Very strong feeling that the wishes of the people in Nairn are not listened to by the planners and the council. We feel quite threatened by their developments, quite a few of which are not in Nairn. We have this wonderful opportunity, as I say, with changing government policy, and particularly the right to buy and through locality planning, which is something that Nairn has long had a very strong tradition in doing very well. And we should be very thankful for all the work that's been done over all these years by all the people who've taken part in that process. We've commissioned this business plan for Nairn. Part of this presentation is based on the business plan. The full business plan will be presented to everybody here on October the 12th, which is a Friday night at 7:30 downstairs. And this most important point of all, to make this work, we need the support of the whole Nairn community. We have to be able to show that we actually have broad community support. And in terms of the Act, that's roughly 10%, which, if you take Nairn and Ardussia, which is the unit we're talking about 14,500, and there's about 1,400 members, so it's a big task. Start with the really good things about Nairn. We have had, at times, amazingly good Nairn and Bloom shows, and it makes a big difference to how attractive the town routes. We've got the links, we've got the caravan site, we've got the marina, we've got the beach. And just on the marina, I was sailing in the Clyde last week, before, and there's a wonderful glossy pamphlet of all the marinas and harbours in Northern Ireland and Scotland. And interestingly, Inverness is mentioned, Finland is mentioned, but Nairn's not. And that's the kind of theme I'll come back to. We've had outstandingly good book and arts festivals, jazz festivals, Tilda's, wonderful film festivals. We've got really good golf courses. We've got really good beaches. We've got a really good Nairn Highland Games. At a time when I'm reading that quite a lot of professional Highland Games are suffering, remember this is free and it's amateur. And I was really impressed this year at the number of youngsters who are taking part. So it's still a thriving community-based, proper Highland Games. The Nairnshire Challenge has been a great success, and Rotary have made a great job of that, and it's brought a lot of very useful funding into Nairn, which is a theme I'll return to. We've done some wonderful replacements. This building is a fantastic building, and that is a very good example of our community centre. Behind it is a very, very good sports centre with the tennis courts and all the work that's been put in by many people there over the years. We've got all the pitches at the academy. So we've been doing our best to get as much facilities as we can, but by MD standards, we would like to do a lot more. Police station is a big improvement on what was there before. And the hospital facility, this is already opening it with Kevin Leach, who's the Director General of the Scottish Health Service. Everybody who gets anywhere in the Scottish Health Service is sent up to look at this sort of community hospital integrated unit, integrated model. Is all party policy in the Scottish Parliament at the present moment, and we should be very pleased that we've got this. We've got wonderful surroundings, Corbin Woods, the beaches. We're very, very lucky how quickly you can get out of Nairn and how much people who come on holiday appreciate that kind of ability to get out. The Newton Hotel with its conference centre is again a very, very good facility that we really want to see used as much as possible. We thought we would do just a strengths and weaknesses, a bit of a SWOT analysis. It's got a good reputation as a tourist town. It's got excellent beaches. It's got 2 championship golf courses, and you only have to look at the success of the Curtis Cup and the Walker Cup and things like that to see how that went. We've got wonderful open spaces that we'll come back to, which are worth their weight in gold. We've got good top quality hotels and guest accommodation. We've got railway bus station, countryside, Colwyn, gateway location to the Highlands, tremendous range of festivals and events, very, very good and large static caravan site and a touring site, conference centre, and that sort of surroundings. Scottish airport, good climate, right in the north, and all the bird life and sea life and things that we think are very attractive to tourists and very different from what they get in their own home environment. The weakness is, you don't need me to tell you that, it's a major problem, and hopefully the bypass is creeping ever nearer, and that would make a tremendous difference to everything we're trying to do. We've got some less old dilapidated buildings than we had, and that's great. Looking out the window, it's much better than it used to, so things are moving in the right direction, and that's a real legacy that we can build on. This whole question of tourism, traffic lights, limited wet weather attractions, town centre parking, what people think when they drive through, because basically the nicest bits of Nairn are not on the 96. This whole thing about promotion, signage, branding that I'll come back to, the whole thing about visitor facilities, perception is the periphery of Highland Peninsula. Probably the one that gets us most annoyed is the perception that we're a suburb town of Inverness, when I think most of us think we're a independent kingdom or republic of Nairnshire, depending on your fancy. Just poor first impression. The whole question was a spelling mistake which I noticed this afternoon, and I'll correct sometime when I'm about it. Marketing, local information, retail facilities, the whole question of that, and I'll come back to that. Busy in the summer, but filling hotel beds all the year round is something we want to try and do. And this thing that we have to address, the surrounding towns are competing with Forestys, the Abbey Moors, Inverness, Port William, are tourist towns, and they all want their share of the tourist business. Feeling that some of the architecture and some of the new builds are probably not very good in the wrong place, and we've got the seagulls. So the opportunities, we need to look at how we build and create and keep and sustain jobs and people. And I'll come back to that theme because it's a theme I'm very interested in developing. We need to engage with everybody in there, but we can't do anything without that obvious support. We want to look at, and I'll run through all this in a minute or two, how much opportunity we have and how much common good and properties we have that can be made better use of. And the model we're using is the Inverness Longman model, where we think as much as possible we should keep the common good in our control, i.e. we hand it on as a legacy, but we use it to produce recurrent revenue. I'm very keen to see affordable housing, and we want that to be for Nairn residents, and we want to get that into balance where we actually know who in Nairn needs housing and ensure that we do that in a way that actually ensure that they get it. We obviously want people to be healthy. We want it to be very nice environmentally and as eco-sensitive and sustainable as we can. And we want to do things like improve the floral display, and there are people in the room who are already put a tremendous amount of work and effort into this. But there's a lot of things that we could do to make it even more attractive and take it back to something as good as it's been in the past. I'm very keen on this whole thing about art, status and investing in art. And I want to look at developing cultural and arts facilities for locals and visitors. Wetlands seems to us a wonderful opportunity again to attract all year-round visitors. The geese are back in numbers that I've never seen. And for people who don't get that chance, people who are living in cities and people who are living in the south, they just can't believe how much opportunity there is to see and do things here. Interpretation signage, civic spaces will come to, evening economy, develop sustainable tourism, and add this whole quality. And above all, this idea that Nairn becomes a dynamic and innovative place and that people come here because it's a very good reputation. And again, I stress this is about Nairn jobs and having jobs in Nairn and good jobs in Nairn and people wanting to stay in Nairn. The threats, the whole question of how big we want to be and how we're going to cope with that is very serious consideration. The whole question of how much money leaves Nairn to go to chain stores and large developers. How we make sure all the buildings are kept as nice and as well maintained as they can. We've got a fantastic historical background, and unfortunately I'm learning discussions I'm having this afternoon that's with Cumberland and the English rather than the Scottish, but as things move around Culloden, maybe we should be making more of the fact that the English stadium was won the Battle of Culloden. We need to be very aware that this is a very competitive tourist market, and people only come here if we actually deliver the sort of things that they want. We need to look at public funding and withdrawal of services and how we make sure we get a fair share, and that includes jobs in there, and whether the council have a vision for the future regeneration of the town. Traffic management. something quite close to my own heart, things like North Flemington polluted out the park because we put a whole lot of phosphate into a lot of the outlet. So suddenly from being one of the best fishing lochs in Scotland, it goes to blue-green algae and poisons and not very nice. And we're on a very thin edge between looking after our environment, and we just need to be very, very careful. And again, this thing about housing developments that just seem unsuitable, unsustainable, and inappropriate. So NICE is saying that we're creating a forum for engaging and representing the views of Nairn residents and a mechanism for delivering these views. And for all of us who've been in this room, who've been on pressure groups and various community councils and various things, the difference is that this is for real and we have to deliver against this, but there's no point in doing it if it's not for real. And as I've stressed already, this is all about community capacity building and empowerment, and I'll come back to that, but I can't stress enough that there's an acknowledgement that centralisation has been a disaster, and that we need to recreate the old Scottish parish, which some of you have heard me speaking in health and social work, it's one of my old themes. We need to create this long-term investment strategy for Nairn by realising the potential of land and buildings. And we want to enhance and regenerate Nairn through the right to buy and securing external funding and realising the true value of the Nairn asset. So it's a big vision, and we'll try and do that through a business plan. And one thing I want to get across is that the directors of NICE are very keen to move as quickly as possible to be non-executive directors with proper professional staff. So we're going to run this as a business, and we're going to run it as a proper business, and we're going to make sure that it delivers what we agree it's going to deliver. So we want to act as the voice of Nairn, and this whole question of civic pride and the fact that everybody I speak to is very proud of being from Nairn and Nairnshire and really wants to make it as good as we can. And that community involvement is definitely the only game in town as we get into the sort of financial situation we're in, and is going to continue for the next foreseeable future, if not ever. We're exploring this whole question of whether this could be an exemplar of community ownership and engagement. And again, we're basing this on a very strong reputation we've got around locality planning and around the work we've done around health and social integration and hospital, and idea of a multi-use, multi-purpose building and squeezing maximum value for money out of whatever property we have. And that will take a fair amount of social enterprise entrepreneurship and the right to buy. So I've said already we want to regenerate Nairn, and we see the pictures, we see the sort of things we're talking about, and I don't think any of you would find anything about to show you surprising, but it would be so much better if we could just get it up to the way we want it to be. There's an amazing amount of money floating around, and we are not poor, but we're going to have to take real-time cuts, or real cuts in real income, and that will put the squeeze on and make absolutely essential that any locality knows it's getting its fair share, and within that it's getting the best use of its fair share. There's been wonderful attempts at this in the past. The Dolphins were a great success, and maybe all we have to do is go back to some of the branding we've already done. But at the present moment, there's a feeling that we're not as well branded as we should be. We have to market there, and we have to make absolutely sure that as much outside money comes in, and as much of the money that is genuine Nairn's money is recycled and kept within Nairn and used for the whole overall development of Nairn, and in particular that gives us the jobs and the employment and the apprenticeships and everything else that we all really want to see. And we've got this wonderful tradition of being an open Nairn. There's a real willingness, and if I mention people, and I'm not going to mention many people, but Dick Youngson, the whole allotment, wetland stuff seems to me a wonderful example of where we could have a very, very sellable image and also be very green and use it as a wonderful education experience. again, we want to build this whole case for an arts and culture centre and a biodiversity wetlands. It's an all-year-round facility, and all of that is designed to have an all-year-round tourist industry. And the Nairn tourist industry is thriving. As a general rule, Nairn thrives because it brings in a lot of income, and that income is circulated around by creating jobs in Nairn. This is probably, in a funny way, the central theme of this whole speech. And collaborating in Nairn, we've got the community, we're looking to regenerate it. We need investment, and we want from that investment to create more jobs. These jobs should create more local spend, which allows you to create. This is Sir Peter Housen, who's the Permanent Secretary, the Senior Civil Servant in Scotland's vision of place was. So the more you can recycle total wealth within your locality, the more good jobs you create, the more good people you have and keep, the more likely you are to get that really wonderful community spirit and all the things that go with it. So we'll bash on now through some lovely pictures. The Nairn Common Good land is a massive asset. Most places in the world would give a right arm and a right leg to have this much land, and I'm not going to get into pedantics here about what's common good, what's owned by the council, what's owned by Nairn. This is roughly the amount of land that we would regard as being in the common good in Nairn. And as you can see from Sandown, Chase Park Wood, wonderful asset of the river, and Bar Golf Course, and the links, and the beaches, this bit, I'll come back to again. So the right to buy is enshrined in the Land Reform Act of 2003, gives communities the right to buy. Now that, when it was brought in, was very much crofting and West Coast and quite small communities. If you looked at the press over the weekend, it's now moving very much to urban, and they're very keen to have a nice urban place doing it. And one of the opportunities I think we've got is that we might think Nairn is a good place to look at kind of urban right to buy. The Scottish Government have approved changes to NICE's constitution, so we are qualifying under the Act. Oscar have agreed that we retain our charitable status with the changes to the constitution that were approved last night. We have to demonstrate, and I stress this again, that we've got community support and a sustainable plan for putting each property to community use. And that successful registration gives NICE the preemptive right to buy open market value if and when we want to expect to sell the property. But probably the next thing is what is all the experience throughout Scotland, that actually you don't have to apply that. Mostly if that's invoked, you get into the situation of willing sellers, willing buyers, and it really makes things very much easier if the community think this is a good idea. So we have the various bits at Sandown, the old Trace Park play area, football field, Trace Park Road. And we thought we'd show just some things. This is our idea of what affordable housing could and should look like, and one of the proposals is to look very seriously at putting local housing, well, housing for local needs on, say for example, Sandown, and have that available for locals and key incoming workers. And that might take us down the road of becoming a housing association. It might mean that we have to look at having a housing manager in there. Now, it's not that long, and I remember sitting in the housing committees when we used to have that, and it worked remarkably well. So some of it's just reinventing wheels. There's been a lot of talk about the farmers' field and whether it might go to Sandown, and this is a multi-event arena in Euston around Highland Showground, and all that I'll be trying to do tonight is paint pictures. We're not saying that any of these are going to happen, we're not saying they're going to happen overnight, but there is a willingness and an ability with this new way of working to try and make these things real if that's what people want. This is Ingleston's wetland habitat, just to show you how nice it could be and how much of a tourist centre and a tourist attraction it could be. And we've got wonderful wild wetland habits along the Firth and at Loch Dew, probably some of the best untouched wetland habitats certainly Scotland and Europe probably too. This is a nice artist's impression of how it might look if we went that far. This is a wonderful example of a modern building, which is an Australian wetlands visitor centre, just to show you we can make it very modern if we thought that was what we wanted. Trace Park Wood, wonderful local victory for the people in Trace Park and a really well used community. Farmer's Field, sitting now too small for the farmer's show. If we go down this road, St Ninians are on the Farmer's Field. This is good old Nairn County, and this is what I call the laundry bit. It's part of the council's offices, or big shed anyway. It's a station park for everybody. And I'll probably go back, sorry. This bit here and the ability to move that road to there would make a tremendous difference to this terrible railway junction and all this sort of stuff in here. And it's quite valuable land in here alongside the railway. So this to me is a wonderful ability, a wonderful place to be quite creative. We just need to think about that. I'm just throwing these ideas. The Station Park, Council Depot. These are the town centre sites that NICE was very involved in the past, and I'll just show you them, but I think most of you know what they are, and I'll come back to it at the end just to make sure everybody knows. This is a nice town centre plan. There's a tremendous amount of work and effort went into this, and we're not putting this up as a final solution, we're just putting this up to give you the sort of thing that might well be much better than what we've got at the present moment, but we would like to do even better than this. This is the old social work building that you see opposite. This is the finance building, and this is just again an artist's impression. And again, we feel this is the sort of thing that might well encourage tourists to stop and encourage them to stay. So, for example, in here we could have a tourist centre, we could have a cafe, we could have a jail, we could have toilets, all sorts of things we could do with this building that might be very helpful for people. Some of the Welsh Kent problems that we've got, Rosebank, the Regal, we did a great job in getting it to this. It still isn't the most beautiful building we've ever seen. This is Common View, this is Highland Council, this is Nairn Borough, this is the car park. This is a famous bus station. And this is this wonderful building which we think is full of opportunities. This is a stable which is associated with Cumberland and the English camping in there the night before Culloden, and it's a building that's much neglected, and I'll come back to this in a minute or two as we develop this theme, but Viewfield seems to us a wonderful opportunity to make this very attractive from Viewfield down through this. I'll show you later. And again, just a kind of artist's impression, and we're going to end up with too many cafes, so don't obviously, we need to be more inventive. And can I say quite clearly to everybody, we're not trying to get every bit of property and then not be able to look after it. We have to have a business plan, we have to know what we're using it for, and we have to make sure it's sustainable. And in terms of the current revenue, we can look after it and keep it the way it should be looked after. Petrol station is gone, and that's a great success, and that was a real tribute to the last council. Social work building's got tremendous potential. We think it can be made very nice, and I've always liked it inside, especially the old jail. This is a lovely building which is listed and used by finance, and I think again it's just a very attractive building. And just a different view of how the town centre might look from a different angle, but just to give you a flavour of what we might be looking at on in the not too distant future. The old community centre has gone. when we were talking about noise, and I should stress that we haven't had any discussions with some of the people I'm talking about tonight, which is just flying kites, and everybody knows that we're going to have to do a lot of work before this comes. But this has never been a great building, it's a particularly ugly building, and it also, we think, would give a wonderful access off the high street into this new kind of square and open area and parking and everything else. So we probably want to knock it down, but that's, this is a lovely building which must have real potential use. This is another building which opinions differ about what state it's in, but potentially would have a good look at it. And it was very exciting when it was a cinema room. So you can see all these different bits and pieces, and if we concentrate now a wee bit on where we're going. One of the big reasons that we're so interested in the library is that all this car parking is library owners. This is T.S. Anderson, it's a Glasgow company. But large bits of this are already in the ownership of the head of council. So, interesting. Linked school, studied quite a lot of interest in the Nairnshire. Again, I think a very attractive building. I don't like some of the bits that have been added on, but that will be sorted out. And again, if you develop this theme, I'm trying to develop a real recurrent revenue. If we got a fair share for health and social care, and we were employing people in there to look after the people in their community, then part of that would be the cost of providing facilities for them, and that might well be a very good use of a building like this, and it might well be made very attractive and kept in good use. This is a real visionary bit. This is Viewfield, this is Corsea, and this is the link, which we know is quite narrow, but it does take you down into this wonderful bit of almost gold that Nairn has here in the swimming pool. So, Viewfield's a lovely house, full of potential. Takes you down to the beach. The beaches are busy in summer, but they're also a wonderful place in winter, and even just in isolation and just walking along it on a frosty January day can be very, very interesting and very, very nice. Corsea is just a shambles, and we need to look at what we can do with that, if there's anything that can be done with it. And again, it's all part of this very, very valuable, not in the sense of selling it, but as a great asset to tourist town to this amount of potential space. So, swimming pool is very good, swimming pool and all the links. So these are examples, and I know I'm flying kites here, but I just think it's very important that people see what has happened elsewhere. This Louisiana Museum is in Copenhagen. That's Viewfield. That's Louisiana House in Copenhagen. And I'm not in any way trying to pretend that this is what's going to happen, but if you look at these numbers, it's just amazing. And 75% are paying their entrance fee, and that's covering a lot, but only 25%. Now, nobody's suggesting this will happen tomorrow, but I find some of this very, very interesting. This is the original old house, and this is what they've developed. Now, nobody wants to see that on the links, but the thinking behind it and the ability to bring people in, I think, is very, very fascinating. And again, I just emphasise how good an asset we have here. St Ives is tiny, relatively so. People said it's just wouldn't work. 240,000 visitors a year seems to me to be working quite well. And interestingly, this is all year-round tourism, and interestingly, and I see people in the audience who are interested in this, it has spawned a very active artists community around about it, and people are buying and selling paintings and artwork around that. So this is the famous Tough House along at Van. And as many of you will know, the National Gallery Permanent Collection is very good, and they have a commitment to showing part of that all the time around at Duff House. This is something that I don't think any of us knew, but Highland Council were similarly gifted 1/6 of the Scottish Modern Art Collection, and it's mainly in storage in Inverness, so it seems an awful waste of an asset, and it's the sort of thing that we would be looking to exhibit in this kind of environment in there. And Alan Jones is from Blackgate, so he was just so fond of this regal, he had to put this up. There is no connection between this regal, which is intact and still seats 1,000 people, but it's been running for 25 years and we're doing all these things in it. So, let's not write the regal off, but we need to be very clever about what we do with it. So, in conclusion, the way ahead is to build membership at NICE, because I've stressed all through we can't do this without a big community involvement. We need to prepare the business case for the first two projects, and the two projects we're really most interested in are around the social work building and the car parking in the town centre, and around the bus station and the car parking on the other side, but linking that into the whole kind of view field. I think quite exciting projects for the future. We need to get into this whole question of making sure we get financial flows, and we need to agree priority plans for future projects. So I think to me it's a very exciting look at Nairn. I don't think anything is particularly new, as I've stressed. I think the good thing is to put it all together in this way, and above all to involve everybody in Nairn about discussing whether they think it's a good idea or not, and how best we can all work together. Because there's absolutely no doubt that neither the council nor the health board or any of the statutory bodies will be able to do these sort of things on their own. So everything has got to be done in an integrated model with different people contributing different skills and different attributes, and certainly the charity, voluntary sector, third sector, whatever we want to call it, is identified as absolutely essential to all these things happening. So if you didn't have a NICE, you would have to invent a NICE. Forests have got a NICE equivalent all over the place with these things growing up. It seems to me to be the way forward, and I'm very happy to answer any questions that anybody's got, and I hope that was seen as a very nice presentation about what we could do in there.
Thank you, Alexa.